Sound to your mind.
Breathe. I stay quiet as I light on my loud light. Breathe. I balance diet, I'm just trying to get my pounds right. Breathe. I stay quiet as I light on my loud light. Breathe. I balance diet, I'm just trying to get my pounds right. Shouts all on my team, I need more than a mattress support in my dreams. Could grab a few Z's like I'm falling asleep, but I don't wanna wake for the morning grief. Breathe. Tears drop to the form in the sea. A broke heart, but it's worn in my sleeve. Never listened, I was warned in my teens, but I still skip school, I was taught in the streets. Ring back, don't call for police. Stand tall, don't fall for the beast. Got issues with trust, so I'm born to believe. We've been a victim of love and now we're caught in it deep. Breathe.
Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Gab Goes In. Obviously, big up to everyone that come through at 12:30 with the Kobe Minu comparison with Paul Scholes and Steven Gerrard. As I said, you know, them kind of streams I do enjoy doing because it lets people, you know, get away from the media narrative. Some of the fans that want to try and paint certain pictures, and for me, as I say, I do enjoy doing things like that, some comparison. So hopefully those of you that did watch, you know, you've now got a bit of a different perspective on the Kobe Minu criticism that's been going about, as I said. Guys, obviously as well, you know, if there's anyone that wants to join, that's on joining an FM24 or a FM26 league, joining from the 94-95 season, let me know in the chat, and we can, as Fitz has said as well, let me know, and then we can try and hook that up, man, because that would be good, to have a little league with you guys, obviously with the community. And as I said, man, yeah, it'll be something to look forward to as well. But yeah, guys, as always, make sure you are smashing the likes, make sure you're subbing to the channel, make sure you're sharing the channel as well, and keep your questions and your comments coming through as always. So we are going to get into it, you know, the underrated 11 versus the PR 11. Now, this should draw a lot of debate, you know, and this is what I like. I do love a debate. And as I said, man, you're not here to agree, you know, we are here to debate it out. And I've got my list down, you know, as I said, I'm missing two players from the PR, which is a left back and a centre back. And again, I don't really want too many, well, I say too many obvious ones. There was two that I was thinking of, but as I said, man, I think the majority of them, you know, I don't think I'm wrong on them, if I'm honest. But anyway, we're going to get onto it. I'm going to share my screen, guys, anyway. And then we're going to go through each position. And again, let me know in the comments in the chat what you guys think as well. Just bear me 1 minute. Just going to share the screen now. So I'm going to do it on the lineup builder. Right, so this one first is going to be the underrated 11, yeah? So we're going to go with a 4-2-3-1, 4-2-3-1 setup. And my first keeper, this might be a bit of a shock, you know, but I think this keeper's not really getting too much. I don't think he's getting the credit he really deserves, if I'm honest. You know, he's been a very good keeper since he's come into the club. Definite upgrade on what we had, you know, and I've probably given it away anyway. But I'm going to go with Sene Lamens. And to be honest with you, you know, obviously I did hear of Lamens, but I didn't really know too much about him. And I think first and foremost, we have to look at Ineos and say, do you know what? They've done their homework. And, you know, doing your homework on players is always the most important thing. And the fact that we've got him in goal, and I believe Lemens has only been on the losing side for United once, I believe. Once or twice, I can't remember. But no doubt that he's definitely been, man, a massive player for Man United since he's come in. And what I like about Lemens, even at his young age, like he does show like an assurance and a confidence about his game. You know, you don't really see him making mistakes. And I think when you've got a keeper like that, it's bound to be it's bound to be a positive for the backline, you know. And as I said, I think him coming to the club, it's been a masterstroke, really. And I would go as far and say, that the only keeper I would say since Lemens has come into the club that's been better than him, I'd probably say Donnarumma. I think Donnarumma is the only one that has come in that can genuinely say he's a better keeper than Sané Lemens. You know, I know David Raya's made a couple of good saves. The same with Pickford as well. But Donnarumma, for me, is the best keeper in this league. Alisson, you know, is suffering with the injuries and has dropped off a little bit. But for me, I think apart from Donnarumma, Lemens is right up there for me. So I'm happy with Lemens in goal. We're going to move on to the fullbacks. You know, I think fullbacks for me was a pretty much a straightforward pick as well. So again, guys, this is the underrated 11 versus the PR 11. So we're doing the underrated 11 right now. And right back, I'm going to go for Jed Spence. I know Spence has probably played the majority of his career for Tottenham at left back. But for me, I think Jed Spence, you know, he's someone, especially if Tottenham was to get relegated, even though I don't think Tottenham get relegated. But if Tottenham get relegated, he's one of probably definitely 3 or 4 players there that you would think would move on, you know. And again, a player that I wouldn't mind Man United going for, you know, if we're looking at, you know, getting rid of a Dallo, let's say, and you want to bring in a Jed Spence, I'd be happy with that. And of course, you've got Jed Spence, someone that can cover at left back as well, you know. And I think he's, even though Tottenham have been poor this season, for me, he's definitely one of Tottenham's best players, you know. And as I said, I think he's been injured. I'm not sure how long he's been injured. I think he's been out for about a month, but I think he's back now. Obviously, they're playing Atletico Madrid. I don't know if it's today or tomorrow. And they'll hope to have him back in the team, because I think when he's in the team, defensively, they are a lot better, you know. So definitely him for right back. I think left back for me, I mean, it's not really a shock, you know, as I did speak about him today, and that's Lewis Hall, you know, formerly of Chelsea, just like Livramento, obviously a midfielder as well by trade, but obviously plays left back for both Newcastle and for England. And for me, I definitely think Lewis Hall is, for me, is one of the best left backs in this league. You know, I think this league does have a few up and coming left backs as it is anyway. You know, I'm looking at El Hadji Malik Diouf as another one. Patrick Dorgu, for me, should be the long-term left back for United. Lewis Hall. You got Trufer as well at Bournemouth. So they have got some good left backs coming up in the league. There's probably a few others as well. And but I think Lewis Hall's right up there. And again, this is underrated, because I don't think Lewis Hall is, I think Lewis Hall's rated, but I don't think they rate Lewis Hall as highly as what a lot of other players have been rated this season or in general. So yeah, Lewis Hall's there. Moving on to centre backs. Now, for me, I spoke about this guy before, you know, both of them actually, 2 centre backs. And I know he's out injured at the moment, but I've said this all along, you know, this season before De Ligt got injured, for me, De Ligt was arguably the best defender in Europe. You know, people would say Gabriel is up there. I think De Ligt's been every bit as good as Gabriel. Obviously, De Ligt is out injured, so, you know, if people are saying Gabriel right now, then it's kind of unfair because De Ligt's not there. But I think De Ligt's very underrated, you know, very underrated. I think when he first came into the club, people were saying that He's not an upgrade on Harry Maguire. You know, they were also saying that he's slow as well. And I think it's quite clear that that's a complete lie, you know, and De Ligt is our best defender, you know. So to think that Carrick's come in and he hasn't had the chance to use De Ligt, you know, I think with De Ligt back in the team, I believe De Ligt makes our team, you know, even more formidable, in my opinion. Yeah, I do believe that. Wan-Bissaka underrated. Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. You know, I don't think Wan-Bissaka is a great footballer, but if you want to say he's underrated, then maybe I'm not too sure. But Matthias de Ligt for me definitely in there, and he's someone that I can't wait to see him back on the pitch for United, because with him in the team, we're going to be a lot stronger, man. Even though we have been performing well anyway. My second pick is someone that I've spoken about already, you know, and for me, you know, this guy should go to the World Cup. He's not going to start because obviously he's got another left-footed centre-back that probably will start. But for me, Murillo of Nottingham Forest, I think Murillo, I've said this already, yeah. People probably don't like this, yeah, but Man United fans. But there's talk about Lissandro wanting a new contract. And if Lissandro wants more money, Man United need to let him go, because what Lissandro gives us, we can get that and more in Murillo and even a Mickey van der Ven as well. I look at Murillo especially because Murillo is probably a similar height to Lissandro, I think. Murillo's quicker, he's stronger. You know, on the ball, he's just as good as well. And I believe, and he's younger as well. And I believe he's got potential to grow into a serious centre-back. And again, if Nottingham Forest get relegated, yeah, and there has been links to Murillo from United, if Nottingham Forest get relegated, don't be surprised if you see the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Liverpool, even abroad. Don't be surprised if them teams come in for him. You know, I'm just telling you now, because Man United need to be looking at him, especially because I'm looking at Aiden Heaven. Aiden Heaven is definitely one for the future. But if we're looking at moving on Lissandro because he wants a new contract and wants more money, and let's not forget Lissandro's contract's running out as well, go and get Murillo, because Murillo is, as I said, he's younger and he offers everything that Lissandro can do and more. So for me, it's a no-brainer for me. And I keep saying this, the same with Baleba, yeah? If we don't get Baleba or Murillo, don't be surprised if them two end up at, you know, other Champions League clubs. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, that back four of underrated 11, I'm happy with. Let me see if I can... Spare me 1 minute, guys. Let me change the name. Can I change the name? Yeah. So yeah, that back five, including the goalkeeper of the underrated 11, Sene Lamens in goal, Jed Spence and Lewis Hall the fullbacks, Matthias de Ligt and Murillo as the centre backs. Let me know, guys, what you think of that pairing. Big up to My Goat says Murillo is class, one of the best in the league. He can dribble as well. Exactly, and this is why, yeah, we need to be all over that. I'm telling you, because I just don't want Man United, yeah, to make the mistake and ignore someone like a Murillo, because there's fans out there saying that we don't need a centre back, yeah, and I think we don't. It's not priority for me, you know. Midfield definitely is the priority, but we need to definitely be looking at someone like Murillo. If Murillo's available for, like, let's say 50 mil, we need to be all over that, because I'm telling you this now, he's going to be a massive asset to whatever team he goes to, you know, and you would potentially get him on less money than what, you know, Lissandro is probably on or would probably want as well. So if you can get rid of Lissandro and get Murillo in, that would be a great bit of business, I'm telling you. So yeah, man, it's a good good one for me. Let's move it on into midfield now. So first player I'm going to touch on is a player that we was actually linked with before. Actually, was actually linked with him, but obviously he ended up going to Fulham, and he's someone that for me is a bit of an unsung hero for me. You know, I think he's someone that yeah, he's someone for me that you know, he kind of goes under the radar. But if you look at Sander Berg, yeah, press resistant, composed on the ball. You know, he's got aerial presence as well. Obviously, being 6 foot. You know, he's not like athletic like some of the other midfielders, but he can still get around the pitch. You know, and he's been crucial for Fulham as well. And again, underrated 11, he definitely fits into that mold. Someone that isn't really hyped up along with a lot of other midfielders in the game or in the league. But he's definitely someone, man, that, you know, I think the boat's been missed now with Sander Berg. I don't think Sander Berg is someone that United will be looking at, even though we do need midfielders. But he was someone that we should have got ahead of Manuel Ugarte when you actually think about it. Imagine Sander Berg in there with his qualities rather than a Ugarte, because Ugarte's got no uses for Man United, but Sander Berg, you know, just like Kobe, press resistant. You know what I mean? So I think he'd have been a great shout, man, in midfield for United. But I think that boat sailed. And does he get another move after Fulham? Probably, but I'm not sure if it's going to be in the Premier League. But he's definitely a very good player, man. You know. Moving on, you know, this player for me, you know, is kind of, you would say, derailed along with another player, their title bid or Champions League hopes, and that is Yuri Tillemans. I think Yuri Tillemans, again, you guys can see him obviously in the thumbnail as well. I think Yuri Tillemans, if anyone doesn't remember Yuri Tillemans coming through, yeah, Yuri Tillemans was earmarked as being, you know, a world star. Like, this was a guy that was going to be one of the best midfielders of his generation. For me, he isn't quite that, but he is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. You know, when he was at Anderlecht, you know, I believe he made his debut for Anderlecht when he was like 15 or 16. And then obviously from Anderlecht, you know, he went to, where did he go from Anderlecht? Did he go straight to the Premier League? Can't remember. Guys, where did Tillemans go from Anderlecht? Did he go straight to Leicester, or was it a move then Leicester? I can't actually remember. But listen, him at Aston Villa, I'm telling you now, if him and Boubacar Kamara stayed fit, you know, I believe Aston Villa would be in the title race right now still. Because missing them two and John McGinn has derailed their season. So I believe if both of them stayed fit, man, I don't think Villa would be struggling as much as they are now. Because you've got Boubacar Kamara, you know, who is a very good reader of the game, defensively sound as well. And then Tillemans is a very good passer, you know, ball through the eye of a needle kind of player. That's it, Monaco. Big up Fitz, man. Yeah, Monaco. That's the one. So he went to Anderlecht, to Monaco, then to Leicester, then to Aston Villa. And again, he was someone that was rated as one of the best up-and-coming young midfielders in the game. You know, I think now, what's he? I want to say he's like coming on to late 20s now, I believe. But great player, man. Top player, in fact. And when I look at the players that are in the PR 11, you know, especially in the midfield, I wouldn't take any of them above Yuri Tillemans. I wouldn't. And Tillemans is someone that isn't blessed with pace. You know, people would say that he hasn't got the legs for the midfield. But again, when you've got a team that is set up in the right way, you know, it nullifies a player's weakness. And again, Tillemans' game is about getting on the ball, you know, his passing and just creating. So, again, the fact that him and Kamara are both out injured along with McGinn, it's killed Aston Villa's season, man. And it's annoying, but these are the kind of things that happen, innit? But Tillemans definitely deserves to be in there. And then we move on to the front line. So first player I'm going to put on the right-hand side is... Actually, no. What I'll do, I'll go from the left, because obviously two of them are in my team already. And the first one is Jack Grealish. Now, obviously, Grealish out injured with the injury he's got. I think, did he have surgery or something like that? But for me, I'm a massive fan of Jack Grealish. And the reason I'm a massive fan of Jack Grealish is that Jack Grealish is one of them players, yeah, that you don't realize how good he is, yeah, until if you watch a full 90-minute performance of Jack Grealish, some of the stuff that he does just goes unnoticed because, as I've mentioned previously, yeah, this game is all about today's game. It's about numbers. People just care about numbers, and Jack Grealish is someone that he's never been a numbers kind of player. But what Jack Grealish is going to give you is just pure quality. He's probably one of the only players consistently that when he has the ball, the only way he loses the ball is if someone's fouled him. Because I would love to see a record, yeah, of how many times, and these are the kind of hidden stats that are not really out there. It's already good people showing you the XG and all this other bollocks, really, yeah. But someone like Jack Grealish, I'd love to see the amount of times he has the ball and how many times he's lost the ball, whether it's been for a foul or him just losing the ball. Because this guy just does not lose the ball. And, retaining possession is an underrated skill. I've never seen an era of football where people are just happy to just turn the ball over. There's players in football now, yeah, that fans are happy for them to lose the ball because they're seen as trying to make things happen. Like, I've never seen it. You look at all the best players in the world, these guys, retain possession. And Jack Grealish does that better than anyone, more than anyone in this league. Retain possession, keep it simple, keep it moving, or drawing a foul. And again, he doesn't get the credit he deserves, man. So he's definitely in there for me. Red Devil News is mentioned. Big up yourself, said Adingra. Adingra is actually at Monaco now, funny enough, on loan. But Adingra's a decent player, obviously formerly of Brighton as well. Crescencio Somerville, another one. He's worth a shout. Yep, I hear it. But for me, I had to put Grealish in there because Grealish is a player that is, I think a lot of fans out there, it's kind of 50-50. There's a lot of fans that rate him and there's a lot of fans that don't rate him. I had someone try to tell me a couple of months back saying that Doku's better than Grealish. And it's like, yeah, like football's not for you, man. Because if you think Doku's better than Grealish, based off what? Like, because Doku's got pace. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And as I said, Jack Grealish, man, is just a pure footballer. Someone that I love watching play, man, because even at Everton now, he just adds that extra bit of quality. And for me, they've got arguably two of the most talented players in the league at Everton in Grealish and Iliman Ndiaye. They're two of the most talented players in this league. I'm telling you, and obviously Grealish is out injured at the moment, but what a player he is, man. And he's definitely in there. On the right-hand side, I've spoken about this player before. Again, this is a player that is massively underrated. Always pops up with goals for his team, captain for them as well, and that is Jared Bowen. Again, when I say that for me, Jared Bowen is better than Bukayo Saka. Some people might call it rage baiting. Some people might think I'm taking the piss. I'm telling you this now. I'm genuinely being serious, because people only think Saka's better than Bowen because Bowen's playing for relegation-threatened West Ham, and obviously Saka's got the PR, and Saka's playing for Arsenal, who are top of the league at the moment. But I don't think people should sleep on the fact that Jared Bowen, man, what he's doing for West Ham is not easy. And again, Bukayo Saka, for me, couldn't do what Jared Bowen's doing at West Ham. Impossible. Because Jared Bowen is not playing in a team full of world beaters or full of top players, Saka's playing in a system that he's been playing for years for Arsenal. And the team is more or less set up for Saka. The majority of their play goes through Saka. At West Ham, it's a different kettle of fish where you're playing for not one of the best teams in the league, and you're constantly under pressure. And Jared Bowen consistently puts up numbers, you know what I mean? And again, the game's not just about numbers, but if you just watch Bowen's general play, he's always a threat, you know. And the bonus of Jared Bowen is him getting goals as well and assists, you know. And again, he definitely deserves his place in there. And he's someone for me, like, I'll be very surprised if he's not going to the World Cup. And the reason why I think he goes to the World Cup is because Jared Bowen understands that he's not going to start really for England, but he'll probably be the best, a perfect squad player, someone that you can bring in, someone that can play through the middle as well, you know, and he's got a goal in him. So I think that's why he's definitely going to go to the World Cup, and it'd be interesting to see who actually misses out, you know. Iliman Ndiaye is the best right wing in the league for me. Again, Iliman Ndiaye is not even a right winger. That's the funny thing. Yeah, big up to Red Devil News. Iliman Ndiaye is not a right winger. Iliman Ndiaye is actually a number 10 and someone that plays from the left. The only reason Ndiaye is playing from the right is because they had Grealish. That's the reason. And obviously Grealish is out injured. But yeah, Grealish is out injured. But obviously they've got the youngsters at Harrison Armstrong, I think, that's been playing. And I think because he's a youngster, I think they're just going to play him a bit more ways where he's familiar with. And obviously Ndiaye has been playing on the right-hand side. But yeah, Iliman Ndiaye is actually a number 10 or a left winger, you know. Carl Walker announces international retirement. Boy, I mean, that was always coming anyway, you know what I mean? But yeah, listen, Bowen definitely deserves his place in there. And then we move on to the number 10 and the number 9. Now, again, if any of you have been watching my channel for any amount of time, you probably might have an idea of who these two are going to be. And again, these are two players, yeah, for me, that are not only underrated, and they make up the title, the underrated 11, yeah. Not only are they underrated, but they're underrepresented as well, I would say, because fans really don't understand the quality in these two players. And the only reason for that is because, again, we bring it back to a lot of fans, in my opinion, don't really understand the game, you know, and it's too easy to criticize certain players like this. The first one is Amad Diallo. Again, Amad Diallo, you know, is a number 10. You know, people think he's a winger. Again, he is someone that can play on the wing, but the fact that we had that Ruben Amorim, you know, that terrorist of a manager, playing Amad as a wing back. I mean, I said it at the time, yeah, he should have been thrown in jail for that. I mean, how you can play a player as talented as Amad as a wing back, you know. And if you guys remember, I did say that what Amorim was doing, yeah, Amorim was trying to use Amad as his Giovanni Quenda. Because if you remember, when at Sporting Lisbon, he had Giovanni Quenda playing at right wing back. And then when United were linked with Quenda, Quenda said no, he wants to play on the wing as a winger. So the fact that this Amorim had the cheek to play Amad as a wing back, I don't think people deeped at the time just how poor that is, you know. Because if you guys have played football, if you guys have played any sort of football, you would understand, yeah, that wing back is one of the most, is probably the hardest position on the pitch, because it's a lot of running for no reward. You know, you're just up and down, more or less acting as a decoy for other players. And the fact that we had a talented player like Amad playing as a wing back, you know, that is criminal from Amorim. And Amorim should have been thrown in jail for that. I stand by it, yeah? And again, if you look at the fact that Sunderland fans will tell you themselves, yeah, when Amad was there on loan, they were saying that, you know, Amad is one of their best ever players. He's probably their best ever player. He's that good, and he was there for 5 minutes, you know. And it's not really a surprise because Amad hasn't been he hasn't been great this season, but a lot of that is due to, you know, he doesn't know whether he's coming or going. 1 minute he's playing wing back. Carrick's obviously restored him back on the right. Obviously, Carrick dropped him against Newcastle because Mbeumo's coming and Mbeumo gets numbers. But next season, you know, when hopefully we get rid of Bruno Fernandes, you know, we've got options to play Amad, Kobe, Cunha, and Xerxes in the 10. Yeah, and I'm hoping that happens, because I'm saying this now, if we manage to do that and revamp that midfield, this team's onto something, I'm telling you. And as I said, man, massive fan of Amad, and Amad needs to be playing central to get him more involved in the game for me, you know. which obviously moves us on nicely to the final player, which I just mentioned, which is Joshua Zirkzee. Yeah. Now, this is a player for me that divides opinion massively. Obviously Owen, when he came onto the show as well, Owen doesn't rate Joshua Zirkzee, and again, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But what I would say, if people out there that don't rate Joshua Zirkzee, yeah, it kind of tells me how you kind of see football. I've never seen a player that is as talented as what he is being criticized, and the only reason why Zirkzee gets criticized is because because he's playing in the crash bang wallop of a Premier League. That is the truth, because this is a guy, yeah, that in terms of natural ability, he's up there when it comes to the top 3-5 players in the Premier League. He's up there with natural ability, no doubt. But he's someone that, because on the eye it looks like he's not trying, fans will just rather criticize him for something that he's not. Like Joshua Zirkzee is not going to run around for 90 minutes and clatter into people. He's not going to do that. Yeah. He's also not going to score 25 to 30 league goals. There's not many strikers in the game that do that anyway. Yeah. So again, people that are looking at Joshua Zirkzee to be something that is not, you're going to be disappointed. I think people need to judge him for what he is, and that is a top footballer. Because I'll tell you this now, if he gets given his flowers to play week in, week out, he gains the confidence, you're going to see what a player he is. Because there's no surprise in that players like Zirkzee, players like Ahmad, they haven't shown what they've got so far at United. A lot of that's down to what they're playing with and players around them. Because if Man United become a possession-based team, you're gonna see the likes of Zirkzee and Ahmad thriving. It's that simple. And that's why we need to go away from the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Manuel Ugarte, Diogo Dalot, players like that, Mason Mounts. And even though Mason Mount is a bit more possession-based than them others, we need to go away from players like that to bring in more technically gifted players. And as I said, man, I've got no doubts about Zirkzee. Zirkzee's a top player, man. Because I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been, was it someone that come on the other day saying that a striker's job is to score goals. Anyone that goes with that notion, yeah, like, do not listen to that. If you're looking at back in the 80s or the 90s, yeah, a striker's job was different back in the day. It maybe was to score goals. But the way football is now, your striker, there's a reason why they play as a lone striker, because the lone striker is expected to do both jobs, hold the ball, and get numbers as well. But the numbers is not the be all and end all for a striker in today's era, which is why I mentioned Harry Kane, because Harry Kane's an anomaly. Harry Kane does both sides of the coin to a certain level, goals and general play. If you look at Erling Haaland's general play is getting better, but Erling Haaland doesn't do the general play as well as a Harry Kane, but he gets obscene amount of numbers. And then you look around, there ain't no one really that is doing that side of the game and scoring obscene amount of goals to a level. So when people are telling you a striker's job is just to score goals, that isn't true in this era of football. It's just simply not true. You know what I mean? Goals will come from out wide. Goals come from all over the pitch now, not solely from the striker. If you've got a striker that's doing both sides of the coin, like what Harry Kane does, then again, it's a bonus. But to be expecting that from every striker, it's just not going to happen in this era of football, man, unfortunately. So yeah, guys, that's my underrated 11. Sene Lamens in goal, Jed Spence right back, De Ligt and Murillo centre back, Lewis Hall left back, Sanderberg and Yuri Tillemans in midfield, Ahmad in the 10, Grealish on the left, Bowen on the right, and then Joshua Zirkzee as the front man. And again, I'm happy with that, man. Karan's back. Karan says Spence is underrated. He ain't really that great of a player. But again, it's not about being great of a player. It's underrated. That's why it's called underrated 11. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Zirkzee is technically good. Zerkamp, he's technically great, man. That's what he is. Like, there's a reason why why his idol is Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and he's got touches of Ibrahimovic in him. in his quality. No one can deny that. So he's a top player, man. Anyway, let's move on to the PR11. And again, I want you guys to help me out on a left back and a centre back, because I'm kind of stuck. There is a couple of names that I'm thinking of putting in, but if you guys have got any names for left back and right side centre back, make sure you put that in the chat. So yeah, let's go on to the underrated 11. Spare me 1 minute. So we're going to name this one the PR11. Right, so PR11, we're going to go for a 4-3-3 formation. Let me just change the formation quickly. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll keep these players in and we'll just change them as we go along. Actually, no, let me see if I can remove them now, actually. I'll remove. Guys, just why I removed these. Let me know a left back and a right side centre back that's overrated. Let me know. Let's get rid of defense first, and then we'll move it on. Okay, so let's go ahead now. First goalkeeper to put in as overrated, and again as PR11. And again, the reason these guys are in the PR11, obviously you guys know PR, public relations. These are guys that have very good PR in the media, and for me, the PR doesn't match the ability. Yeah. So first one we're going to go for is David Raya. Yeah. Now, I actually think David Raya is actually a decent keeper. You know, I think he's decent, but that is all I think he is. I think David Raya is massively overrated in my opinion. I think when people talk about David Raya, you know, I had someone tell me the other day that David Raya is world class. I'm not quite sure how you can be world class off after a couple of seasons. And let's not forget as well, David Raya hasn't won anything in his career to date. Yeah. Again, he's made some what you would say is world class saves. You think of the Yankuba Minte one. I'm pretty sure there was one the other day as well. You know, he made a couple of good saves in the Brighton game as well. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure why it's always Brighton that he's denying. But what I would say is that, do I think David Raya is world class? Hell no. Hell no. Because he's got to be winning trophies. He's got to be doing it consistently for a bit more longer for me to be looking at him as being world class, in my opinion. You know, I think if I'm looking at keepers in the Premier League right now, you know, I'd have him. I would have him behind Donnarumma, definitely. He's behind Alisson, even though Alisson has dropped off a little bit. I'll take Lamens ahead of him. I think Lamens has been that good. I'd even look at Jordan Pickford as being probably better than him or equal to him. You know, and who else is there? There's probably a few other keepers, but I'll definitely say David Raya. If you're looking at top 4 keepers in the league this season, he's definitely in there. But there's no way that he's world class for me. World class keepers for me are goalkeepers like Donnarumma, Alisson, Thibaut Courtois, Mike Maignan, Manuel Neuer, even though he's getting on a bit. Like them guys to me are world class. Juan Garcia, I think he's going to be world class as well. Ter Stegen, but obviously he's getting on a bit as well. But they're the world class keepers for me, man. And again, I think the fact that people are saying David Raya is world class is because Arsenal are doing well at the moment. But I'm pretty sure if Arsenal weren't, you know, top of the league, doing decent in the Champions League, I don't think this world-class talk will be about for David Raya. I think they're just capitalizing on it because, as I said, David Raya's, is top of the league with his club at the moment. But that don't mean he's world-class for me. So again, PR11, David Raya in goal. Right back. For me, right back was an easy one. Obviously at Real Madrid now, Trent Alexander-Arnold, And I think first things first with Trent Alexander-Arnold, yeah. As a modern day right back, in terms of his quality on the ball, that can't be underestimated. But let's remember, Trent is actually a midfielder by trade anyway, yeah. But Oblak's another world-class keeper as well. Big up, yeah. Porto's goalkeeper, Diogo Costa. He's just underneath world-class for me, Costa. But Oblak's definitely world-class. But yeah, Trent for me, I think the reason why Trent gets hyped the way he does is purely because of his quality on the ball. Like he's striking of the ball, his passing is what gets him into conversations. So people think that he's better than what he is, and that's why the PR11, he definitely figures in there. Because the one thing about Trent Alexander-Arnold, if you put up a quick winger, someone that's quite direct, or tricky, he struggles 9 times out of 10, But I think the PR behind him for him playing for Liverpool, homegrown, he's got good delivery, etc. That's what's fooled people into thinking that, he is this sort of top class player. Again, there's rumors about him being moved on from Real Madrid. And again, it just shows you that even they don't think he's as good as what, the English have made him out to be, really, And as I said, man, I think Trent, for me, he is massively overrated in this era of football and makes that team easily for me. Let's move it on. Again, guys, left back, centre back, left back and right side centre back. I've seen a few names in there, so we'll get this one in first and then we'll go on to that. Gabriel Magalhaes. This might be surprising to some people, but I'm going to tell you why I think Gabriel Magalhaes is overrated. I'm not sure why he's not showing up. It might just be Gabriel. Let me check. One minute, guys. So Gabriel Magalhaes. There we go. Now, Gabriel, for me, yeah, is actually a good defender. Yeah. But I've seen people say that, Gabriel Magalhaes is the best defender in the world. Gabriel Magalhaes, is the next coming of, he's like the Van Dijk of the league now. I've seen all this type of nonsense. And we need to remember, yeah, that Gabriel Magalhaes has won nothing in his career. Yeah. So, although I do think he's good, I think a lot of Gabriel, whether they call it the aura defending, yeah, and that's BVD, my bad. Whether people think Gabriel Magalhaes is that good, I think a lot of it has to do with the defensive structure around Arsenal. Because if you see the way Arsenal defend, it protects their centre backs, and this is why I want to see Arsenal when they have to go for a game, and this is where you can tell if their centre backs are any good. Because if they're chasing a game and it leaves their defenders exposed, you'll get to see how good these guys are at defending. Because too many times, you've got Zubimendi, you've got Declan Rice. They protect the likes of Gabriel and Saliba, and I'm going to throw in Saliba there as well. And I actually do rate Saliba. But if I'm throwing him in as a partnership, just to make it fair, yeah, I think both players, for me, are good defenders individually, yeah. But I think people get carried away when they say that Gabriel and Saliba, are the best pairing in the world. They're no Rio Vidic for me. They're not better than, Are they better than Van Dijk and Konate? I don't know. Are they better than who's the other pairing in there? Ramos and Varane back in the day, or Ramos, Pepe, PK Puyol. There's been so many different partnerships. Are they better than them? I wouldn't say so. I just think that the defensive structure and how Arsenal set up makes them look better than what they actually are, in my opinion. And again, that's nothing taken away from them, because individually, I think they're good. But we're never really going to see how good they are until they have to go and chase a game, because as soon as Arsenal go ahead, they just defend the lead. I want to see a game where, they have to chase a game when they're coming from behind, pulls that one, and see what they do. Maldini, Nesta, not the level, of course. So, again, individually very good, but together, I'm not convinced yet. As I said, they've got to win the big trophies, and I want to see when they're chasing the game to see how they can deal with that, really, Guys, left back. Who are we going for left back? Someone that's a PR11 at left back. Anyone got any names? Anyone got any names? I know someone mentioned Kirkes in there earlier, but I don't think Kirkes is rated like that. There was a name I was thinking of, but Lewis Skelly. I mean, I don't think Lewis Skelly hasn't got much PR, has he? I don't think so. Someone said Kirkes. Guys, give me a left back. Give me a left back, and we'll just go with that one. Calafiori. Okay. Big up to Carrot Ball. We'll take Calafiori. Boy, Arsenal are featuring very heavily in this one. I ain't gonna lie. It wasn't by design, by the way, guys, just to let you know, yeah. But Ricardo Calafiori, obviously a centre-back by trade. I think with Calafiori, yeah, I think he has got good qualities. He has got decent quality on the ball. But again, he's another one. I think I'll put him in the same bracket as I'm trying to think, actually. I'll put him in the same bracket as a Trent. A bit different. Trent's obviously got the passing and the striking ability, whereas Calafiori is composed on the ball. But I think just like Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think until you get a player that is quite direct, that can beat them for pace, etc., this is when you're going to see these guys becoming vulnerable, And I think definitely with Calafiori, he's another player, and I think you're going to see it to the end of the season. I think if you look at Arteta actually trusts Hincapie more at left back than he trusts Calafiori, and that's not really a surprise, because Hincapie is more, he gets more stuck in. He's probably got more pace than him as well. So I think that's probably where Arteta looks at it, that Hincapie is probably an upgrade on Calafiori there. But again, another player that does have good PR, maybe because these people fancy him, I don't know, you know what I mean? But what I would say is he definitely does deserve his place in there. Probably not ahead of a few others, but he definitely does have his place in there, Now, let's move on, guys, because we're going to the part of the team, which for me, this is undisputed, and you guys probably know where I'm going here, yeah? 3 players that not only do they have PR, yeah? They've got arguably the biggest PR in world football, I would say, and I would argue that on. I'm probably looking at 1 or 2 other players that have bigger PR than these guys, especially in the Premiership, yeah? These guys have the biggest PR in world football, yeah? First person we're going to get onto is going to be none other than Declan Rice, yeah? And again, I think Declan Rice is a good Premier League midfielder. But the way Arsenal fans, the way the media, the pundits talk about Declan Rice, yeah, these guys would have you believe, yeah, that Declan Rice is the best midfielder of his generation. That is how much they talk about Declan Rice like this, yeah. And again, I think it's just the overhypement of a player. I think he gets hyped up in this country, yeah, because he's a runner. You know, it's nothing short of that. He covers a lot of grass, you know, and it's all heart, passion, blood, sweat, and tears. You know what I mean? And for me, I've never been of the opinion that players like that should be getting the hype they do. I think these players have their place in the game, of course, but I'm not of the opinion to be hyping up players like this, you know. And again, I showed you guys earlier today, yeah, the defensive stats for comparing Kobe Minu, Declan Rice, Caicedo, and Rodri, yeah. And you know, the media, the pundits, fans, yeah, big up to Carrot Ball saying Lumi Rain, Mamba, yep, even Clockenders as well. They would have you believe, yeah, that Declan Rice is the best midfielder in this league, yeah. I showed you all the defensive stats, and he tops one. And the only one he tops, yeah, is the one that you don't really want to top, and that is clearances. And that just tells you everything the way that Arsenal play. It's just last ditch clearances, getting the ball up the pitch. Yeah, that's the only stat that he tops, by the way. So again, Declan Rice's PR is ridiculous because you know, these people will make you think that he's the second coming of Busquets, and it's just madness, really. But I think he's a good player, but that's it. But people getting carried away saying is this, is that. Nah, not for me, man. Forget about it. You know, and as I said, the whole debate about Rice or Caicedo, Declan Rice is nowhere near Caicedo. He's not. Caicedo can do everything Rice can do and better. The only thing you'd probably say Declan Rice can do is strike a corner better. I'm not even going to include free kicks because those free kicks, they're a once in a million kind of strike. You know what I mean? He's never going to do that again. You know, to hit two perfect free kicks in one game, you know, is not really going to be done by Rice again. So again, that this whole Declan Rice or Caicedo, I think we can just put that to bed if we're honest, yeah? The next player. 1 minute, guys. Sorry. The next player we're going to put in here, again, is not really going to be a surprise to you guys. You know, I spoke about this guy plenty of times. You know, he's arguably the poster boy, you know, along with another player for overhypement. And again, Bruno Fernandes, yeah, he is someone that just literally gets hyped off of his numbers, because there's no one that can convince me, yeah, that Bruno Fernandes is a top player. He's not. I watch more or less every Man United games, yeah, with Bruno playing since he's come to the club. And what Bruno does is produce moments. But moments don't mean that you're a top player, because consistently he doesn't put in an overall top 90-minute performance. He doesn't. What he does is put in an average performance, and then his performances get hyped up because he might get a goal or an assist. And as you guys already know, yeah, the way that assists are counted in this era of football is an absolute joke. You know, in Sky Sports, it will tell you he's got 14 assists. Go and have a look at how many of them assists are from open play and how many of them are actual real assists. You know what I mean? These are the kind of things that they don't want to talk about, yeah? But again, the poster boy for GA. The poster boy for GA. You know what I mean? And as I said, I'm not going to spend too long on Bruno Fernandes. But end of the season, Bruno, thanks for the 7 years. You've been there for a long time. Yes, you've got your numbers, whatever. But we didn't win the trophies that we should have won. You know, whether that's your fault or not, but we've got to move in a different direction. That's exactly what needs to happen. I'm hearing people say give Bruno 400 grand a week. Like, these fans are absolute idiots. And I'll call them idiots because, again, why would you give a player like that 400 grand a week? Why? Why would you do that? I'm hearing fans saying give him 400 grand a week. Idiotic, you know what I mean? Again, it's not really about the money side of it, yeah? But it's like, there's no need to be doing that when we need to go and improve this midfield. Because Bruno's not a player that's irreplaceable. Because the only thing he's got for Man United, really, is what people will say is numbers. But his numbers can be replaced if you just share the goals out around the squad. It's that simple. And as I said, in the summer, apparently he's going to dictate what's going to go on moving forwards. If that's the truth, yeah, get rid of him now, man. Just let him know. End of the season, we're moving on, because there's not one part of me next season, yeah, that is going to be satisfied if this guy manages to survive another season. Because what people don't actually realize, yeah, is that Bruno Fernandes is going to be blocking someone else coming through, whether it's from the youth, whether it's players that are already there. There's players there that can thrive without Bruno Fernandes. And as far as I'm concerned, his time's done now at Man United. Let him move on. He's going to be 32 next season. Just move him on. Simple. Let's move it on to the next player that is high in PR. Yeah. Probably the biggest, I would say, he's probably the biggest. I wouldn't say fraud, yeah. I wouldn't say fraud, but in terms of a player, yeah, that is just hyped to the max. And when I say there's players out there that their PR doesn't match their ability, there's no other player that is more deserving of that title than Jude Bellingham. The way fans talk about this player, yeah, is actually a disgrace. Again, I remember telling you guys that I had a friend that told me that, and I say had a friend, yeah, because this is some of the worst nonsense I've heard, yeah. He actually told me that Bellingham had the potential to be better than Zinedine Zidane. Zinedine Zidane. And then when I asked him, why do you think that? He said, oh, because he took his number. This is the kind of level of delusion that's going around in football, yeah. And the fact that Bellingham's found his way at Real Madrid is nothing short of PR. And he heads the PR circus, really. Because I've never seen a player as average as him as a footballer being at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And again, do I believe that Real Madrid signed him because they actually genuinely believe he's just a great footballer? No, I don't. They've signed him because he's very marketable. Light skin, sharp hairline, one of England's biggest stars because of the PR. I've never been on the Jude Bellingham train, man, to be hyping this guy. I think his brother's better than him as a footballer. And I've watched Real Madrid, yeah. They've had midfielders like Zidane. They've had Beckham, Makelele, Guti, Hierro, Fernando Gago. There's probably a few players that I'm missing, yeah. Eduardo Camavinga now, Tchouameni, Valverde, Modric, Cruz. They've had midfielders like that, and now they have Bellingham. Absolute disgrace, man. Absolute disgrace. And as I said, and I'll keep saying this, yeah, if England take Bellingham to the World Cup, yeah, even though I don't think England win the World Cup anyway, because France and Spain, Brazil, Argentina, they're going to be the teams to beat for me, and maybe a few others. But if they take Bellingham, it's going to set them backwards, because Bellingham should not be starting for England, yeah? But if he does go, the fanfare around him, is that going to force Tuchel to start him? These are the kind of things that we need to be having a debate over. But yeah, he's someone that for me, he's just very overrated, and if he come back to England, he'll just be another player. That's it. Because this league's full of physicality and pace. And his physicality and pace won't be a difference maker in the league that's already got that. In Spain, it might shine a little bit because that league doesn't really have that. But in England, he'll just be another player. Right, moving it on to another player that is high on... actually, you know what? Let's go left side. Let's go Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford. Again, not going to dwell too much on Rashford because you guys have heard me talk about Rashford before. And Marcus Rashford, for me, was never the player that a lot of the media, the fans wanted him to be, thought he was going to be. Because for me, as I said, The only reason why fans thought Rashford was that level is because they tried to pit Rashford against Martial stupidly. Martial and Rashford actually played better together, you know, as a partnership. But if you're looking at just the pure footballer ability wise, Rashford was nowhere near Martial. But the fan base, the media, you know, the pundits would never allow that. Obviously, for obvious reasons, because Rashford was English. But this is where it all came from. It was always like pitting Rashford against Martial, which never should have been done. And then they built Rashford into this kind of superstar that really and truly should never have happened, you know. And then I said this was going to happen. I said, you know, Rashford's going to be left hung out to dry by this by this fan base, yeah, because it's one of them things where as soon as the likes of Pogba, Martial, Martial, and what's his name? Jesse Lingard, players like that. As soon as they go, Rashford's got no one to lean on to. And what happened is that Garnacho came about from the academy, and the fan base were trying to push Garnacho, even though we all knew he was never good enough. But this is what the fan base were trying to do. And what's happened now? People are now starting to see the light with Marcus Rashford. You know, obviously he's gone to Barcelona and he's having a better time there now. But again, he's someone that his PR, you know, carried him through. His PR carried him through a lot of the hype that he was getting. And now he's in Barcelona, away from the limelight of England. It's a lot better for him, you know. But he definitely should be there. Moving on, guys. Bukayo Saka. Again, another player that I'm not really going to touch on too long because I've spoken about Bukayo Saka. You know, obviously Bukayo Saka's got the new contract, 300 grand a week. You know what? 6 Premier League goals, 4 assists. You know, and just a lot of overhypement. You know, people think that Saka is, you know, as I said, Clockenders did say before, he thinks Saka's one of the best players in the world, top 10, in fact. You know, comparing him to Lamine Yamal, craziness, you know. But again, you know, Saka's someone that, because of the racial criticism that he got in the Euros with Sancho and with Rashford, it's like people are just overdoing it with Saka now, you know. But I actually think Saka is a good Premier League player, but that is all he is. When I start hearing all this world-class talk, yeah, it's just going over the top, man, for me. And as I said, man, he's a good player, but no, at not one point do I think Saka is world-class. And again, if he's world-class because the list of right wingers out there ain't a lot, then that's probably why people put him in them conversations. But if I look at world-class players that play in the same position, he's nowhere near Yamal, Elise, or Greenwood. All 3 of them players are better than Saka. You know, as I said, Jared Bowen is better than is arguably better than Saka. I don't think people should be looking at Jared Bowen thinking that he ain't better than Saka because he's at West Ham. Because Jared Bowen, if you remember, had the chance to go to Liverpool. You know, but yeah, to say that Saka is top 10 in the world or whatever is just madness. And the PR is making people think is making people think that, you know. And then moving on to the last player, guys, before we wrap it up, is obviously we know he plays on the right hand side, and that is, but I'm gonna play him through the middle. Mo Salah. Now, I think it's important, yeah, to, you know, look at Mo Salah's consistency for numbers, yeah. And I've always said, you know, Mo Salah, to be honest with you, you know, he has always put in consistent numbers. But the main thing for me is that you could always see that once the physicality goes, the pace goes, and his numbers dry up, you are going to get to see just what a poor footballer he is. Yeah. And again, don't get me wrong, Salah will get the odd tap-ins, as you see the other day against Wolves. But over a consistent 90 minutes, he's never going to give you a good performance. And that's because he just ain't a great footballer. He's not. You know, I think people think because he scores goals, automatically he's a great footballer when he's not. And you can clearly see, you know, the goals have dried up. And now you're having to see what Salah's got. And as you get older, you know, this is where you have to rely on your actual ability. And I always knew that Salah never was the player that many thought he was. You know, the physicality and the pace he had, as I said, yeah, it was something that he definitely leaned on heavily with. And that was the makeup of him and why he was getting so many goals. But now you can see that's now gone. You're getting to see just what Salah is. You know, he's someone that is just not a great footballer. But again, PR, you know, PR would tell some people that, you know, he's better than Eden Hazard. I'm not sure how you can say that Salah's better than Hazard. Off of what? Because he gets goals? Crazy, you know. And as I said, man, I think you give credit to Salah for his consistency in numbers, but I'm looking purely at the ability. And all these players here, for me, the PR doesn't match the ability. And I won't change my mind. So, yeah, listen, let's go through it again. So we've got David Raya in goal, Trent and Calafiori as the fullbacks, Gabriel and Saliba at centre-back, midfield three of Declan Rice, Bruno Fernandes, Jude Bellingham, and then the front three of Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, and Mo Salah. So that's my PR 11. Guys, let me know what you think. The underrated 11 versus the PR 11. Let me know if you think there's other players that should be figuring in there, or there's other players that don't deserve to be in there. As I said, I welcome the debate, you know. But as always, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you sub to the channel as well. And yeah, listen, I should hopefully catch you guys tomorrow or Thursday. So and guys, be sure as well to look out for the posts as well. There's a post that come out today. Arsenal fans will find that one interesting. And then I think there's another one coming out. It might have come out already, actually. I'm not too sure. So yeah, let me know in the comments as well what you guys think. And yeah, big up yourselves for coming through. Make sure you share the channel and make sure you sub if you're new. And yeah, I'll catch you guys for the next one. Take it easy.